Enemies to the east. Enemies to the west. Enemies to the south. Enemies to the north.
A wizard's ancient spell.
Into the eyes of the dragon and the despair!
And the lust of a lord.
I must have her. One night with her.
Give birth to an empire.
Behold!
How audience theories are reflected in Game of Thrones and Excalibur have been created and received in the eras in which they were released. For this, I'll be looking at reception theory, star theory, gratification of fandom. Game of Thrones is a fantasy drama series that is set in medieval times, which involves powerful families fighting for a seat on the Iron Throne and the Seven Kingdoms. This was released 17th of April 2011. Excalibur is a fantasy film set in the 15th century. The storyline is based on King Arthur uniting Britons around the table of Camelot in order to protect them from the darkest forces. This was released the 10th of April 1981. King Arthur is a medieval mythological figure who was the head of the kingdom Camelot and the Knights of the Round Table. To compare Game of Thrones and Excalibur, I have looked at other medieval genre films, such as King Arthur, The Adventures of Robin Hood, The Sword and the Stone, and Lord of the Rings. Stuart Hall's reception theory. Reception theory is dedicated to the audience on how they can encode and decode the text. This relates to the personal and ethnical meaning to the audience. Reception theory can either be positive or negative. It is important to review why the audience doesn't like a text or enjoys a text. Socially, when Game of Thrones came out in 2011, there wasn't anything that resembled this fantasy drama series.
Order your man to step aside or there will be violence.
I choose violence.
This made it very memorable to the audience as it was something they can get into. However, Game of Thrones only happened because of Lord of the Rings. This was because the audience in the past has recently gotten into this fantasy drama genre. George R.R. Martin then was recognised by his work and influenced the production company HBO. When the producers wanted to make the original published book of Lord of the Rings in 1954, it wasn't possible as the technology in 1981 wasn't around to make the success of the production. Whereas Game of Thrones only happened because how ethnical changes in the technology improved and was something that could be made possible. Whereas the director of Excalibur, John Boorman, wanted to originally make the Lord of the Rings series, however the technology wasn't as advanced as it is today. In 1981, more action films such as Raiders of the Lost Ark and Star Wars were released, which was why Boorman was inspired to do something with more historical value. Christine Gledhill, Star Theory. Game of Thrones and Excalibur are both clear examples of star theory. Christine Gledhill defined that capital star value theory suggests that the actors and actresses of the film make it more money as it already well known to the general public. This is clearly shown in Game of Thrones as Sean Bean is as well known in Lord of the Rings.
My father is a noble man, but his rule is failing. And our people lose faith.
He is then cast as Eddard Stark for the main role in Season 1.
I've made many mistakes in my life, but that wasn't one of them.
Oh, but it was. When you play the Game of Thrones, you win, or you die. There is no middle ground.
However, Excalibur took a different approach. Boorman decided to use theatre actors and actresses such as Helen Mirren and Liam Neeson. Who were just starting out their acting career. Nowadays, people are more prone to watching Excalibur due to their later in life careers, as they are well known for films such as Taken and The Queen. Gratification of fandom. In the 15th century, it is important to bring up the fact that women had no rights. Their job was only to bear children for the lords. Game of Thrones and Excalibur uses traditional violence, sex scenes and strong language such as swearing occurs a lot. This makes the show rated 18. Excalibur is only rated 15 due to the fact that it has a lot of swear words.
Fuck, bitch, shit.
Men out there want to fuck your corpses!
Both of these shows show the prediction of women. This has changed throughout the eras of the films and television since it's been released. Lord of the Rings is a clear example of this, as a lot of the female characters in Lord of the Rings were actually written in the pre-production rather than being in the books. This is to express more positive female representation. In the 15th century, women are only seen as sexual objects and forced to use that stigma for money, to help them make a living. A lot of this is shown in Game of Thrones and Excalibur. This can actually contrast to the audience and make them thankful for the generation of the equal rights that we have nowadays. Another reason why the target audience is a much bigger range in the 21st century is because it's more focused to equal gender within the show, whereas in 1981 John Boorman really focused the target audience on male population. He does this by only using 2 female actresses within the whole film. They are hardly given any screen time, is why it's more focused on a male target audience. Now with the democratic population in the 21st century, it is important that producers have a storyline that will relate to almost a range of diverse people, so that no one is offended. Audience are also drawn to certain films or programs due to how they relate to the audience. They can do this by using personal subjects, which the audience can relate to, either by using a character or a social issue.
This is not the dance of the Westeros we are learning. The Knight's dance. Hacking and hammering.
Technology is another ethnicical change of the universe and how developed it has become. Nowadays, to view Game of Thrones is usually by broadcast TV and stream online. These ways to view the programme makes it more convenient to the audience to watch. Unfortunately for us UK citizens, we have to either record the episode, or if you're as dedicated as me, you would prefer to stay up till 2 AM for the first viewing of the episode. Gratification of fandom theory is a brilliant way to keep the audience recognition throughout the entire production and years down the line. The audience can do this by buying merchandise or even buying the DVD or Blu-ray. And there you have it. 3 theories on 2 different eras of the medieval time period.